Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Evacuations from Kabul airport in Afghanistan have reached over 82,000 since the Taliban took power. About 20,000 of those have been evacuated in just the last 24 hours as Western powers push to airlift people before the withdrawal deadline.
The sooner we can finish, the better.
President Joe Biden told the G7 leaders that the United States is on pace to complete the US pullout from the country by August the 31st, but that doing so will depend on cooperation from the Taliban. Meanwhile, Afghans gathered near Kabul airport are facing miserable conditions with food and water being sold at exorbitant prices. The World Bank has suspended aid to Afghanistan, freezing hundreds of millions in funding. Last week, the IMF blocked the delivery of payments. US Vice President Kamala Harris has met Vietnam's top leaders, offering support in several key areas, including the enhancement of its maritime security in the South China Sea. Speaking in Hanoi during a meeting with the Vietnamese president, Harris said there was a need to increase pressure on Beijing over its maritime claims, including more visits by US warships in the area. The vice president's flight to Vietnam was delayed by several hours due to an anomalous health incident with similarities to the so-called Havana syndrome, a condition of unknown origin with symptoms including dizziness, nausea, migraines and memory lapses. It is unclear who else was affected. The US Supreme Court has ordered President Joe Biden to reinstate a policy of making asylum seekers stay in Mexico while claims are processed. The policy was put in place by his predecessor, Donald Trump, as part of his measures to restrict the number of asylum seekers entering the US, but Mr. Biden suspended it on his first day in office. Rights groups say the policy subjects migrants to dangerous conditions in Mexico's border towns. Authorities have accounted for dozens of people who were previously listed as missing after the weekend's deadly flooding in Tennessee. Officials also lowered the number of those killed by the storm, which destroyed homes and businesses, dropping the estimate to 18 from 21. As residents have gotten in touch with authorities or found family members and friends at the local reunification centre, only 3 people remain missing. Officials said that over hundreds of homes are water damaged and uninhabitable. A dozen miners have been killed in Colombia after the underground shaft they were working in exploded as a result of a methane gas buildup. The mine was located in Colombia's central Boyacá department. Rescuers are now working to retrieve the bodies, but the collapse at the mine shaft is complicating efforts. In 2020, 171 people were killed in mining accidents in Colombia. 15 people are confirmed to have died in landslides in Venezuela's western Madeira state. Streets in mountain villages were converted into raging torrents after torrential rains hit the area in the Andes. Footage taken by locals showed cars being swept away. Most fatalities occurred in the town of Tovar, where the river burst its banks after hours of rainfall. China has successfully launched a new communication technology experiment satellite into orbit. The satellite was launched from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in southwest of the country. With an $8 billion budget, China has an ambitious space program and is on a par to establish a permanent space station by 2022 and a lunar research outpost by 2036. This was the 29th mission the country has completed this year. Ivory Coast's first person to test positive for Ebola since 1994 has now recovered. The 18-year-old woman from Guinea had travelled to Abidjan by bus 2 weeks ago and then tested positive for the disease. Ivory Coast immediately held a vaccination drive to cover people who'd had contact with the visitor and security forces on the border with Guinea. The woman has now had 2 negative tests so far, so her isolation has been lifted. And finally, Mexican scientists have developed a unique nanobubble system using solar energy to improve water quality. A team of researchers developed a method that converts solar energy into photovoltaic energy, activating a pump that sends nanobubbles into the water. The bubbles help oxygenate the water, eliminating harmful pollutants and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which leads to healthier plant life like flora and fauna. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.